My friends, I want to start today by sharing a simple but profound story. A man was out walking through the woods one day, enjoying the sights and sounds of nature. As he came around a bend in the trail, he stumbled upon a colossal grizzly bear. The man froze, realizing this powerful beast could tear him apart with ease. But then he remembered an adage that you should never turn and run from a grizzly, as that can trigger its predatory instincts. So instead of fleeing, the man stood his ground, made himself appear as big as possible, waved his arms wildly, and let out a mighty roar. To his astonishment, the grizzly backed away slowly and eventually lumbered off into the forest, leaving the man unharmed. Now, why do I share this story? Because it perfectly illustrates the power of acting as if that man knew the reality that the grizzly could have destroyed him without breaking a sweat. But rather than accepting that perceived limitation and giving in to fear, he acted as if he was the dominant force in that encounter. He projected strength, power, and ferocity. And incredibly, this allowed him to overcome what seemed like an insurmountable obstacle. You see, my friends, this principle of acting as if is one of the most potent tools we have to break through the self-imposed limits that so often hold us back in life. We are frequently shackled, not by our actual capabilities, but by our perception of what is possible based on past experiences, assumptions, and we become masters of acting as if and unlock our vast unutilized potential. We must diligently undermine these false limits by acting as if they simply do not exist. And the beautiful irony is that by acting as if we have no limits, those perceived limitations begin to dissolve and crumble away. Let me give you another vivid example that hits closer to home for many of us. The area of public speaking. Few things strike more paralytic terror into people's hearts than having to give a speech or a presentation in front of a crowd. The fears kick in, what if I freeze up? What if I make a fool of myself? What if my mind goes blank? I have a friend who used to be incredibly anxious about public speaking. He would be gripped by intense anxiety and panic attacks leading up to any speaking engagement. But one day, he decided he had to overcome this immense psychological block. So before his next speech, he kept telling himself, I am a gifted, commanding public speaker. I captivate audiences effortlessly. My words flow like water off a duck's back. In other words, he acted as if he was a world-class orator, even though his experience up to that point told him the opposite. And you know what happened? My friend delivered what he said was the best speech of his life up to that point. His words were passionate, articulate, and impactful. He connected with the audience in a way he never had before. All because instead of succumbing to the artificial limits imposed by his fears, he acted with the bravery and confidence of someone who knew he could be brilliant on that stage. These examples underscore one of the primary reasons we must learn to act as if. Because we all too often underestimate our own capabilities based on our past experiences and self-perceptions. How many of you have told yourself at some point, I'm just not good at things like that, or that's too hard for someone like me, or I'll never be able to do that? By framing things in those terms, we are automatically placing limits on ourselves. We are resigning ourselves to remaining small, playing it safe, and never unleashing our spectacular human potential. But think about this for a moment. When we were infants first learning to crawl and eventually walk, did any of us quit after a few failed attempts because we concluded that walking must not be for someone like us? No, we kept trying, stumbling, falling down and getting back up, acting as if we could absolutely conquer the mastery of walking, even though all evidence pointed to the contrary at first. We must learn to tap into that unrestrained confidence and belief we had as children. We must learn to act as if nothing can stop us from achieving any dream or goal we set for ourselves. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking is, sure, it's easy to talk about acting as if, but how can I sustain that mindset in the face of continued setbacks, disappointments, and failures? That's a fair question, but the answer is that acting as if is not just a passing attitude, It is a way of life and way of being that takes consistent practice and nurturing, but it is absolutely worth the effort because living this principle creates a positive feedback loop of belief, action, and results that build upon themselves. Let me share a story with you to illustrate. There was once a young man growing up in the inner city who had a dream of one day becoming a wealthy businessman and philanthropist. But all around him were poverty, crime, and hopelessness that would seem to make such ambitions unrealistic. But this young man made a decision early on to act as if there was nothing that could stop him or limit his potential for greatness despite his circumstances. He didn't just wish for success. He began carrying himself with the confidence, focus, and work ethic of someone who had already achieved it. He developed the habits, mindset, and self-discipline of a highly successful person. And when he faced obstacles, as we all inevitably do on the path to any great dream, rather than accepting those roadblocks as affirmation of his limitations, he acted as if they were mere temporary setbacks that could be overcome. And incredibly, by maintaining this mindset, those challenges and setbacks did start to clear away. Opportunities began opening up. People started taking notice of his talent and drive, and one step led to the next. The result? That young man went on to found one of the most inspiring and impactful nonprofit organizations in recent history, transforming the lives of millions around the world by acting as if there were no limits to his potential. His name was John Gardner, and the mighty organization he started to build brighter futures for disadvantaged youth is the International Association of Student Councils and Honor Societies. By acting as if nothing could stop him, he shattered every limitation that could have held him back and achieved greatness beyond his wildest dreams. Now that's an extreme example, but it vividly shows what can happen when we tenaciously and consistently act as if our potential has no limits. I want you to take a moment now and reflect on the biggest goals and dreams you have for your life. What incredible heights could you scale if you truly removed all self-imposed limits through your mindset and actions? What fulfilling feeling does it give you to imagine acting as if achieving those grand visions is inevitable? Don't let fears, doubts, pessimism, or perceived shortcomings hold you back any longer. Resolve today to let go of the limits you've accepted in the past and act as if you are unstoppable in the relentless pursuit of your highest ambitions and ideals. Does this mean everything will instantly become easy or that you'll never face adversity again? Of course not, but acting as if transforms the way you approach and respond to challenges. Rather than letting them stop you, they become temporary obstacles to overcome. Rather than seeing barriers, you begin seeing opportunities. After all, think of the challenges faced by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all those who acted boldly in the fight for civil rights in the 1950s and 1960s. They were confronted by institutionalized racism, prejudice, hatred, and even violence at every turn. Yet they acted as if justice, equality, and human dignity were not only possible but inevitable. Dr. King did not achieve his incredible impact through meek acceptance of limitations, but by acting as if every human being deserved the rights enshrined in the U.S. Constitution regardless of skin color. And as we have since seen through the immense progress that has been made, their bold actions as if had resounding impacts far beyond their lifetimes. By acting as if institutionalized racism's days were numbered, they began to make that seemingly impossible vision a reality. The 26th President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, was known for his unshakable belief in unlimited potential and acting as if greatness were a certainty. Here's what he wrote. "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly." Roosevelt captured the spirit of acting as if that by daring greatly, striving valiantly, and believing in our unlimited potential, we can live triumphant lives of high achievement regardless of the final outcome or results. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, this all sounds great in theory, but how do I actually start transforming my mindset and acting as if more consistently? The first step is to vividly reaffirm that you have immense reservoirs of untapped potential within you. Reflect on the abilities and talents you already possess in at least some areas of your life. Then consider how much more you could expand and amplify that excellence if you released all limits on what is possible. Next, set clear goals and visions for grander levels of fulfillment, achievement, and impact in the areas most important to you. And don't hold back. Set targets that may seem audacious or implausible right now based on your current circumstances. You're not being arrogant. You're simply acting as if. With those exciting goals affirmed, now start acting as if their attainment is assured. Not just fleeting thoughts, but sustained beliefs, habits, and actions. Carry yourself with the poise, confidence, and capabilities of someone who has already achieved those grand visions. Make acting as if your default way of being. And critically, anytime you catch yourself reverting back to old fears, doubts, and limiting thoughts or behaviors, immediately reject them as disempowering half-truths. Replace them at once with empowering reminders that you are acting as if you have limitless potential. Act with bold conviction, then watch how potential begins turning into reality. Now, I know maintaining this mindset requires diligence and perseverance, especially early on when it runs counter to so many ingrained patterns, assumptions, and previous experiences. There will be times you stumble or falter, which is perfectly normal and human. When that happens, don't beat yourself up or allow those missteps to gain psychological footholds. Simply reset, refocus, and act as if surmounting those setbacks is assured. As I look out at this room today, I see people from all walks of life and all sorts of backgrounds, circumstances, and levels of experience. And yet what I also see in every single one of you is vast, untapped potential waiting to be unlocked. Each of you has unique gifts, talents, ideas, and dreams that only you can bring to the world. The only question is whether you will timidly accept the limits you perceive around you or boldly cast them aside by acting as if your potential is truly limitless. As the legendary motivator Earl Nightingale once says, whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. So plant the potent seed that you are someone who acts as if you can achieve greatness and shatter any limitations holding you back. Nourish that mindset daily with conviction, consistent action, and all the enthusiasm you can muster. And I promise you that if you persevere in wholeheartedly mastering the mindset of acting as if you staunchly refuse to be derailed by setbacks or negated by skeptics and critics, then inevitably you will start experiencing profound breakthroughs, growth, and achievement beyond what you currently believe is possible. One breakthrough will lead to another in an upward spiral, as acting as if unleashes compounding levels of confidence, courage, and momentum in your life. Old limits will drop away as new exciting realities and fresh levels of human potential come blazing into view. Acting as if someone of limitless potential creates a powerful self-fulfilling prophecy. So make that commitment today, my friends. Shed any limits, doubts, or fears that have restrained you up until now. Give yourself the great gift of releasing your full human potential and daring to live a life of unbounded achievement, growth, and fulfillment. Simply start by acting as if nothing can limit your potential.